Kylie from Sam Altoona. We figured we'd have another art lesson today. Today what we're going to be focusing on is making a piece inspired by Shirley Goldfarb. She's an artist that is originally from Altoona, Pennsylvania. She actually moved to New York City and then she lived in France for the rest of her life. And she has work displayed in New York, Paris, DC, and pretty much all over. She's best known for her application of paint with a palette knife, and she is actually just really cool. And it's amazing to think she came from Altoona too, because you don't really think of someone coming from the town you live in. I'm going to turn the camera around so you can get a picture of her, and I'm going to give you guys a few minutes. Grab some paper and some markers, or you can use colored pencils or crayons, whatever you guys have, and we'll get started here in a few minutes. There we go. And that's Shirley. And again, she's originally from Altoona, which is really cool. I believe we have a piece in the permanent collection by her. The name is escaping me right now, which is really unfortunate, but it's a really beautiful piece. It's large, and it has a lot of red and purples in it, which it was a part of an exhibit that we had in Loretto. I want to say probably half a year ago now. Time's a little weird, but it was really cool. It was the exhibition was called Women in Art, Selections from the Permanent Collection. And then also I want to show a few examples of her pieces, which she is known for applying her paint with her palette knife, but she usually applied it in like squares. And some of the things we're going to be focusing on is repetition today, which is going to be really fun. I really love that one too. But I just absolutely love her work, and I think it's amazing. So, without further ado, I think we could probably get started. So, I'm just grabbing my notebook real quick and moving my iPad out of the way. There we go. So, what I want you to do is I want you to grab 4 colors. Grab at least 1 primary color, and then the other 3 colors can be whatever you want. I am choosing to do these colors. I'm using yellow, an orange, and then 2 greens. But that's just because that's what I want to use. I've done a few different studies in her style here within the past few months, weeks, and I've used like red with purples and oranges, and I've also used blues with greens and yellows. So the sky's pretty much the limit, but still just make sure you have at least 1 primary. So let's see. Sorry, I'm gonna adjust my chair a little bit. I like to try to start from one end of the piece paper to the other end. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure this is seeable. This one's a little small. I need to buy some more sketchbooks. I'm running out of paper, to be honest. So I'm just starting out, and I'm focusing on making rectangles myself. If you want to make any specific shape, you can make circles, like small circles or squares too. I'm going to hold that a little. Or let me see. Let me just switch to a different tablet and see if I have any paper, because that is moving a lot. I'm sorry about this, guys. There we go. That one's more stable. So, we're going to start from the left side and try to work our way to the right. So, I'm just focusing on making rectangles, and in order to make this piece kind of walk across the canvas, I'm going to be randomly putting rectangles over here and throughout to kind of lead myself into making all of the color across the paper. I'm going to get all the other markers. Do you guys know what colors you want to use? There we go. And for right now, I'm not touching any of the colors together. That way I can come up with more color combinations towards the end to focus a bit more. There we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of focus on repeating the same kind of mark making. So we're going to focus on repetition, and repetition is basically just repeating what you're doing over and over again. And then we're also going to try to just focus on the marks we're making. So if you are making circles, continue making circles the whole time, like small little circles, kind of tiny. Or if you're making rectangles like I am, continue to make rectangles the whole time across the whole piece, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in and I'm going to start layering different colors on top of each other. And sometimes I'll even layer the same color a little bit on top of each other just to see how it reacts, because sometimes with different things you use, the colors will blend differently depending on how you layer it, which is really fun. And it's okay if it's a little bit messy. Don't spend too much time thinking about where you want to put everything, because that'll take away from the intuitiveness, I think that's the word, of this. So you basically just want it to come naturally to you and just flow through your hand onto the paper. And rotate colors every so often, and you can even say you want to just color right on top of a different color just to see how it blends or mixes. You can do that, and I actually highly recommend that. I think that's probably the most fun thing to do. And I try not to stick with the same color too long, because if you do, you tend to just get too into it. So make sure you're switching between your 4 colors enough, because you don't want to have too much of one color or too much of the other color. And I've been trying to, whenever I do these, I just kind of work my way out and into each other. So like as you work out from the one that you're doing, oh hi Marion, it kind of, sorry that was really squeaky, it kind of will merge together, and it keeps your eye moving across your paper and your piece, and it also helps a lot to keep you from just staying stuck in the same spot. So I chose to use a lot more of a yellow and green palette today. Do you guys know what you mix with yellow to make green? And then once you get more and more colors down on your paper, what I like to do is in the white space that you have between, if you feel like the gap's too large, I like to go through and add a little bit of color to try to lead yourself back to that piece. It also helps you if you feel like you got stuck because you don't know where to keep going from too, as well. I feel like I like that dark green okay, but it's not my favorite. But I really love this light green, oh my gosh. Do you guys have any colors that you normally tend to go towards whenever you're picking colors when you're making art or drawing, or even sometimes when you're writing? Whenever I was younger, I used to be really into writing with different colored pens for different things. I was a lot more organized back then. And then also, don't be afraid to put color directly on top of other color as you're doing this. We're working with layering a little bit to see how different colors react together. So basically, if you look closely, I'm going to bring this up closer, see how each color interacts differently with the next one. That's the effect that you want. You want to be able to see the mark that you're putting down on the paper, but you also want to see how those colors interact together and see if they talk to each other and make a cool kind of piece. I always use the analogy of making colors talk. Sometimes I feel like it's the easiest way to explain when colors get along, kind of. So I chose, with these colors, I chose more of a warmer color palette. There's 3 different types of color families. There's neutral, there's warm, and there's cool. If you're going with a cool color palette, you're focusing on your blues more so, and if you're going with a warm color palette, you're focusing on your yellows and your reds often. And it's really cool to play around with those. And sometimes if you mix the 2 types of color palettes up, it's really bizarre how they interact, and sometimes you're like, that's not quite right. Because sometimes colors just occasionally don't get along, but everyone also has a different color palette that they like too. I usually actually tend to go towards teals and blues. I do like the use of yellow a lot though. I like, if I'm making something that's more realistic, or, well, not realistic, but more in the realm of realistic, like realism, sorry, that's the word I was looking for. I usually like to try to use yellow for lighting as opposed to going straight in with white. And then as you work your way over, continuously go back and keep adding colors in. I don't like to leave any white spots throughout my paper, so I continuously keep going back and forth to try to fill in any blank space. You want to use all of your paper, and you want to make sure it's fully covered. really like that dark green that I picked, to be honest. I like it okay, but I feel like it overpowers all the other colors, so I've been trying to use it sparingly. When we're done here, make sure to send us what you made too. We are having an exhibit in our windows here coming up in June. We're calling it Gallery A Go-Go, and what we're gonna do is any art that you send us, you can either send it to us by email at altoona@sama-art.org, or you can send it in the comments even. And what we're going to do is we're going to print out your pieces and put them in the window for display for people that walk by. Because even though everything's kind of closed right now, everyone's out and about and going walking, and it's something fun to look at and feel connected with. I'll also leave the email down below after this in the comments. That way you guys can don't have to look through the video for what the email is. And you can use any of the art lessons that we've created from the beginning of this project until the end even. I think we started our art lessons in April, around April 14th. So definitely look through all of the past ones too, and feel free to make art from whatever catches your eye or whatever you like. You can even make art from all of them. That would be amazing to see. If you notice that you have too much of the same color somewhere, definitely go back and just go right over top of it with another color to break it up. That way you don't have too much of one color just blending together, because you still want to try to see all of those individual marks and how they're interacting with one another. It's really cool. There's a part of a quote that I heard by Shirley Goldfarb, and she says that she just kind of lets her colors walk across the canvas. And so I always try to keep that in mind when I make anything in her style, because I think that's just really beautiful. Do you have any favorite quotes from artists or anyone that you really know? I'm actually starting to like this a lot. How are you guys' pieces coming out? Are you enjoying the process and enjoying being able to kind of be a little bit more free? I like to go back in after I feel like there's enough color in one spot and try to see if I need to break it up or add a little bit more color into it. I think I'm gonna go over these really dark spots with some lighter colors and see if they'll blend with it. Just see what happens. It's really cool to experiment with the different types of things you're using to create too. Like if you're using colored pencils, they'll blend differently than what I'm using, and it's always really cool to see how everything interacts differently. So make sure to send us your pictures. We absolutely love seeing your artwork. And then once you have a good solid block, kind of repeat what you did earlier with adding the random colors in. Sorry, I just added a few little marks in my margins to make sure I had ink in my one marker. It felt like it was drying out. So you're just going to kind of restart what you did previously, where you're adding colors in at random to lead you to where you're going to finish the piece. I'm going to add some darks. I feel like once you start getting a solid block ready and done, well, it's not a block, but a solid chunk of your piece done, it really starts coming together too. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. It'll get covered up, so that's fine. If you have accidents where you have a line, or you accidentally drug your marker or pencil across your paper, it's okay. Like, sometimes accidents happen. I think the coolest part about art is figuring out how to fix your mistakes as you go along. To be honest, I didn't actually realize until I was older that you can actually fix art by continually working on it. Oh, thanks, Anne. I'm glad this is relaxing. I absolutely love doing these things. It really helps clear your mind while you're working on stuff. I dropped one of my markers. There we go. Sorry. It's really cool to notice, too, how everything builds up. Even though I know it's kind of randomized how we're putting color onto the pieces, it kind of starts getting a pattern after a while. Oh yeah, these are all Copics. I work with them a lot. You can use any other markers that you have as well. I just own a lot of Copics, so that's what I usually use. You can try to use Sharpie. That would probably be fun. Just be careful with the smell of those, or if you have like Crayola markers, those are really great. Those are fun to use. You can also use colored pencils and do small circles. Do you use Copic markers, Anne? Your daughter and I have that in common. I absolutely love these markers. It took me a while to learn how to use them, though. Like, I use them a little differently than how I'm using them here. Or a lot differently. I'm using 4 colors, actually. Here, I'll show you. I'm using these ones, but you don't have to use the same colors. You guys can actually use all kinds of colors. I've done a few of these kind of pieces with like reds, blues, purples type stuff. But the biggest thing to focus on is that you have at least one primary color. So I'm using yellow as my primary. And then the 3 other colors, just pick out whatever random ones that you want. I stuck with colors that had yellow in how you make them already. So since this one's more orange in tone, I used this one because red and yellow make orange. And then I used these 2 because, you know, blue and yellow make greens. If you guys follow along, make sure to send us some of your pictures. I would absolutely love to see what you make from this. But there we go. Alright, I think since we're about halfway through making this, I'm about halfway through the paper, I'm probably going to finish up this live stream here, because this is pretty much what you do. It's a very repetitive process, and that way you guys can also focus on what you're making more than what I'm saying or what I'm making as well. So I'm gonna try to turn the camera around here. There we go. Hi guys. So just make sure to comment with what you make down below. We would absolutely love to see it. And also, I'm going to put a link to our donation page. If you enjoy these art lessons, please feel free to donate whatever. It doesn't have to be a lot. Every dollar counts. And also, remember that we're having Gallery A Go-Go coming up here in June. I almost said January, in June. That we would love to have your art for. So basically, for Gallery A Go-Go, just send in your pieces. Either you can comment them below, or you can send them to our email at altoona@sama-art.org, which I'll leave that below in the comments after this live stream. And we would love to display your work. What we're doing is printing out the work that we're receiving and putting them in our front gallery windows. Thank you so much, guys, and I hope you have a great weekend.